Hoffman, who's Vice Chairman of the Zionist Federation of the UK and Ireland, and also Betty Hunter, who's General Secretary of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. I should speak to both of you together. Very good evening to you. Thank you for coming in. Jonathan, first of all, we're just hearing there how there is so much international condemnation which has been voiced in part at the United Nations tonight. What do you make of that?
Well, Chris, the Security Council is meeting at the moment. Let's see what they say. But I think it's clear that under international law, Israel had the right to board the vessel. It was in Israeli military waters. If you look at the San Remo Manual on International Law, neutral vessels on the high sea, when the vessels are believed on reasonable grounds to be carrying contraband or breaching a blockade, they can be searched. And if you've seen the footage, you'll have seen that the Israeli soldiers came down the cables, they landed peacefully, they were expecting a peaceful reception, and they were mobbed, they were attacked, they were clubbed, they were knifed, there were stun grenades, there were fire bombs, and there were metal pipes. And this is not a humanitarian, peaceful way to behave. That's quite clear.
Betty Hunter?
Well, I mean, I think that's completely what is not to be seen on the television footage. Certainly the people on the ship resisted the army coming down on them. This peaceful flotilla, which had the authority of the Turkish government, had MPs from various European countries on it, as well as peace activists and celebrities, members of peaceful organisations, human rights organisations from different countries, had organised this flotilla precisely because Israel is not allowing these very urgent goods in, and to make the world understand. Warships, Israeli warships, surrounded the ships all day yesterday. Drones were flying over them, so there was a threat. The ships stayed where they were in international waters, and the Israelis decided at 2 o'clock this morning, in the middle of the night, to attack the ships. Armed. You saw they were carrying machine guns as they came down from the helicopters. And we saw them.
They were carrying handguns, not machine guns.
Jonathan Hoffman, there is a dispute, isn't there, over this issue of international waters. The Turkish authorities clearly, the Turkish government clearly sees Israel as having violated international law.
Well, let's correct this point about the machine guns first. The soldiers came down the cables and they were using paint guns because they understood it was going to be a humanitarian mission. They were told it was a humanitarian mission.
There's no dispute that people have been killed.
And they were mobbed. And they were mobbed. And they defended themselves with handguns. They did not have machine guns. They had handguns. And there are some stories that there were, in fact, handguns, Betty, on the boat itself.
This is a lie. And it is, of course, you're saying this. There does need to be an independent inquiry.
It came out at the press conference of Daniel Al
Jazeera were there reporting on this ship. They were on the ship. Press TV were on the ship. Television news cameramen and reporters were on the ship following the convoy. All of them had their cameras stopped as soon as the Israelis had boarded the ship. We only have a few moments of it. But we can clearly see this aggression. You cannot say that people who have been clearly saying that they're taking humanitarian aid to Gaza openly, have come through Turkey, who've come through Cyprus, had their manifests officially looked at by port authorities in these countries, and have got hundreds of peace activists, some of them Jewish, Muslim, Christian, non-religious and so on, from all over, and America, coming to show their solidarity with the people of Gaza, to actually have murder perpetrated on them by the Israeli army, which everybody saw, cannot be denied.
I'm sorry, Betty, there were knives on the boat, there were hand grenades, there were stun grenades, there were fire bombs. There were fire bombs, and there is film of it. You cannot deny it, there is film of it.
What about this issue that the boats had already been through a process of having their goods checked?
There have been boats landing off the Israeli coast, and the Israeli Navy has apprehended boats carrying terrorist weapons. The only government which can defend Israeli citizens is the Israeli government. They offered the boats to offload their cargoes in Ashdod. The cargoes would have gone through the normal routes and would have gone by land. The Egyptians offered the cargoes to go through Port Said and go by land. But the protesters said no. They were warned not to approach this closed military zone, and they said no. and the Israeli soldiers came down those cables. You can see the footage if you don't believe me. They came down those
we're watching the footage at the moment,
and
but
they used paint guns.
It should be stressed.
And they were mobbed.
Paint guns don't kill.
Look what Benjamin Netanyahu said. They were mobbed.
Just one moment. Let me just make the point that this footage is it's controlled by the Israelis. The Israeli Defence Force has put the footage out. We've not been able to see
from a helicopter, Chris.
No, well, we've just been looking at different footage to the ones you were referring to earlier, just as you were talking. But there's a question here that whatever the reception that did happen, and whatever the level of aggression, do you believe that it justified the deaths of more than 9 people?
Loss of life is always very much to be mourned. And indeed we do mourn them, and we are sorry that there were 5 Israeli soldiers injured. 2 of those Israeli soldiers have been critically injured. So of course one finds loss of life completely unacceptable. That goes without question, but it has to be said that these boats were offered the chance to offload their cargo in Ashdod and in Port Said by the Egyptians. The cargoes would have gone through the normal channels and would have gone, apart from building materials, which at the moment there's a risk that they will be used to make
this
bunkers,
is precisely
to
the
make
question.
bomb bunkers, and that is the problem. But
This
they were
siege
offered
has
it and
been
they
going on for
refused.
4 years.
Why did they refuse? Because they wanted this political PR victory. They wanted to see Israel condemned, which now in some countries has happened, but not in every country, because people can see the footage. They can see those Israeli soldiers coming down the cables and being mobbed with knives, with stun grenades, with fire bombs, and with metal pipes.
You have made that point, Beth. You have to.
Yes, the whole point is the siege is against international law itself. The United Nations has passed resolutions condemning this siege. William Hague today said the siege must end. That's a step forward from the British government, which I welcome. And to say that the Israelis would allow this humanitarian aid is an absolute lie. They all the time stop the aid. You've just had Mustafa Barghouti telling you what the situation is in Gaza. And these peace activists are taking this action in order to make the world wake up to the fact of Israeli war crimes.
There's 15,000 tonnes a week going in. 15,000 tonnes a week is going in of humanitarian supplies. Every week that goes in.
All right, Jonathan,
more on Muslim holidays.
Jonathan Hoffman,
every week.
Hunter, where we get a sense of the strength of feeling. But thank you very much indeed, both of you, for coming in. Thank you.